It's Total Divas rewatch time, watch along time. I am not alone. Mr. Ronnie is in the building. How you doing?
Well, one thing I should tell, shout it from the rooftops and say that TK is about her business, because you know what? I thought I was in mid sentence with TK and the show started. So you have got to stay on your toes if you're trying to be on the level of TK. So that is my message for the day. I says, oh, we're starting. Let's go.
There it is.
And you know that tracks, right? That kind of tracks a little bit.
Well, I mean, sometimes I'm ready to go, sometimes I'm not ready to go, and there's a lot of things, things that are happening that I'm ready for. So let's get
we're moving along because there's, I think, 14 episodes, sans the reunion. So this is episode 8. So we're like, we know the characters, we knew them of course before, but like this is it. So yeah, I'm into No Longer a Bridesmaid. What will happen? We shall see.
There it is. So let me
let me find the episode.
Yeah, let me find it. And then let me share it.
Wants me to shoot for them. Where's my huge step? I need one too.
And then you watch stuff like this, and like, she's moved on, so it's like you don't even want to watch this anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to.
I'm sure it's hard. Yeah. Oh, they didn't give us
tonight.
That was such TK. That was such a good episode.
It was
season 1, episode 8. No Longer a Bridesmaid. The Bridesmaid. I thought it was 14 episodes for the first season, and I think it is.
No, you're right. There are 15 episodes.
Okay.
So episode 9 is Total Divas After Party, which is kind of in the middle, which I get. Obviously, they changed it now.
Yeah.
For reality shows, they have the after parties after the fact. And then there is 10 to 10, 11, 13, 14. So there's 15.
This is such a silly question, and I'm probably all the way wrong. It seems like when shows are like an inaugural show, even though there was so much success, the idea of this show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think is there a space that this was geared towards being an 8-episode Natty getting her, magic moment for the wedding, and then it just in the midst of it was doing so good that they kind of added more to that first season? Is that even a possibility?
I don't think so. I feel like, and we probably have to cross-reference it, I feel like reality shows and that era had more than 8 episodes. Like now when I'm like producing, and it's more podcast stuff, but it kind of going into like the Netflix shows and stuff like that. It tends to be either super short, like those 8 to 12 episodes, or it tends to be super long.
Okay.
So I think that era you get the longer episodes, because I one of my favorite shows for folks who like watch me all the time is Catfish. The first season, I believe, let me double check. Like this last season is 80 something episodes, which I feel like they're not really cutting up the season. It's just like one-off shows, which is a whole nother story. I may or may not do a Catfish rewatch because that is hilarious.
Is Cammie still co-hosting on that one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Catfish season. Wait, hold on. That's not. This is season 8. Let's see, season 1. Let's see, because they were around the same time, I believe.
Yeah.
That was 13 episodes.
Okay, so 13, 14 is like a average. Well,
because the first couple episodes you want to give it time for people to discover it too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's 15 was a healthy amount to give the show a chance at that time.
And as you said, there's going to be episode 9 where it's kind of like a breakdown with the cast members. But like this is full steam ahead, and this is a very good. If it was only 8 episodes, it could have landed here for the most part. I mean, it was. It's funny because it's such a competitive show, as we saw with Eva and JoJo, but there was a lot of like rom-com moments, kinda, and we were so happy to see Natty get her day. Of course, it was raining, and of course, Jared tried to come in with all.
Like, when you watch it back, you're wondering. Well, I don't know if you were. I was wondering, like, some of the parts seemed like staged, like. Even with Ariane and her like her having issues with her stomach, is like, were the cameras already in her room and she felt sick? And the thing is, then it didn't call the ambulance. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like safety is always the issue. So was that stage. Even with the Jarrett thing. And then you also noticed too that it was a little light for the wedding. So did they have another, like, did they have a separate wedding and this was for television, which often happens sometimes. I know quite a few couples where they got married on TV and then they had a whole different wedding that wasn't on TV.
That part I won't say like is not like it was authentic. I'm not saying it's not authentic, but it definitely was a wedding for TV. Only because if she comes from such a history of being with all of these, iconic wrestling names in her family, you would have thought we would have seen so much of that. And no knock to like, we love John, we love Trinity right in the front row, but I'm like, what?
Yeah, where the family at?
Yeah. So you weren't into, Jared said, oh, I hear you guys got issues on the wedding day. He said that, TK.
That's why I'm saying that's what it feels like. And then like, how do you play that? Do you did TJ know it was happening, or did you tell Jared to do that? Like, it just seems.
Well, okay. I think they said, Jared, what are your intentions here? And they just like kept like pulling it back. So even if there's a little bit of maneuvering, they were following that. The Trinity and Arion thing, that's the one that I'm like, because there was filming at the wedding and prior to, but to just have somebody in the room ready to go, and it wasn't like an Arion conversation, but let's go the other way. The phone call came from Trinity in her room, so maybe that's what caused like, hey, let's pick up cameras.
I
still feel like it's
I mean, I don't know. I could ask her, but it seems so long ago, so it's not even a point. But I don't know. It's that's the good and bad thing with kind of knowing the behind the scenes of how shows and stuff work, that everything is now kind of questionable as far as authenticity.
Right.
So
you see an edit and you're like, well, there's nobody there.
Right.
The lighting of the, if it's an outdoor scene doesn't look the same. You're just like, you kind of know there's a little bit.
The movie magic is like, once I started my first year in LA, and I was, I'm sure everybody's done it, where you're now like part of the audience and you see all the cameras and you see that the house that you see on TV is not a house. Like it takes away all, and then you actually get to work in the industry. It kind of takes away all the magic, because then you're like, okay, well, how many cameras are they using? And then also doing and then also doing the producing aspect, it's always about the final product and who's going to watch. So now when you have that in the back of your head, you're just kind of like, okay, well, everybody's life is boring if you go day by day. But if you string together the heightened events, then it's a reality show.
Yep.
So it's just essentially taking, I remember we interviewed Mona Scott. Well, not we, but when I was working at VH1, we interviewed Mona Scott for Love and Hip Hop. And she was talking about, the selection process and stuff like that. And for those who are watching, Mona Scott is, like I just said, Love and Hip Hop. Like, she's the creator of all that. And we were talking about the selection process of folks and stuff like that, and how they do like series of interviews on the people who are going to be part of these reality shows. And those are the tidbits that they use. Like, once they decide that that's the casting, that's the information they use to kind of create the storyline. So the storylines are already there. It's not like, oh, do this. It's already there. It's just more creating the environment for them to flourish or break down or whatever, depending on the reality show. So it is interesting how it came about. But like you were saying, maybe the camera's already there with Trin, just to kind of capture her contacting John, but then that could have been scripted too. So it's just kind of like which is a good thing. It's not, although because some of these shows, they're all the way scripted where you're just like, clearly this was.
And here's another thing. I just thought of this. Wrestling itself, you are going along on the entertainment journey. You know what I mean? Like, you're not stepping in and saying, well, wait a minute. You just like, okay, this was a great match. We saw the match between Natty and Trinity, and it was like, it was so much fun. So you're going along on the journey that is given, and that's the art that you're kind of appreciating. So I think with this particular reality show, obviously others go a little too far, which is what we're seeing in nowadays. This is why it's a fun rewatch. 10 years ago, like, you could suspend disbelief a little and question a little, but you're still
Right.
like, at the end of the day, Eva and JoJo are very much new. And that
Right.
concept, we know from working in all the jobs we've worked, the competitive, but like, I'm going to support my close friend. But then things happen where I didn't see it coming. I didn't see
Right.
JoJo and Eva being like, okay, we're not going to be roommates anymore.
The luxury of doing that too, because you can't just unroommate a person, not in LA. So it's like, we just not, all right, cool, I'm moving
Yeah.
out. Like,
Yeah.
that's not
Well,
that in
those,
itself is not normal, because are they really roommates? You see what I'm saying? Like, there's so many different nuances
from like this
in a lot of the
duration to this duration.
yeah. I mean, what show was that where they had the houses or stuff like that?
Mhm.
And a lot of the houses were the celebrities' homes. I think Beyonce, she didn't put it on social media, but somebody else put it on social media where she was showing her home, but it wasn't her home. Like, it just, all the tricks.
Well, so
To,
also it's a production, you know what I
yeah.
mean? So it's like, you have to still produce something, as you said. I want to talk about, just to end it here, Nikki and her kind of bailing out on Natty. I did want to go off what you're saying though. One more comment. I did work a show once where it was a pretty big show, but it was a dating show. In
Mhm,
terms of what you're saying, like that whole finagling or manipulating or maneuvering, this particular show, there was a duration that they were going to decide if they're going to go further or not.
mhm,
But why all the matches? Nobody lived locally. So inherently, the drama was, you had somebody way over here and
mhm,
a 2-hour drive over here, and they had to like essentially move in together here. So no one's near their job, no one's near their friends. They really
mhm.
don't want to be in the location, and that added to a little
Pressure,
bit of the drama. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Who cares about that? I was on the fence. This is my last comment here, and then we could wrap. I was on the fence with Nikki and what she did by not going to the wedding. Why did she make that choice? Why? I guess John Cena, he holds that much weight, right?
Well, I mean, they're a year in. She's definitely in love at the time, and that first year, I'm not won't speak for anybody else, but like that first, especially when it's going right, that
Mhm.
honeymoon period where, and he, even at the end of the episode, he was
That was
saying,
so
like,
good.
the long distance stuff. So like that honeymoon period, and you want to be around that person, and now they don't even live in the same state. They're across, like,
Mhm.
it's kind of like, meeting somebody's family is very important. And then also, it's not like he's an IT person and they can
Yeah.
reschedule. Like, they travel all the time. So it is a catch 22. I mean, I'd be curious to, I mean, I don't know. Some people, when they break up, they're like all bitter and stuff about the person, and they don't want to like see anything about them. And
Mhm.
some people are like, oh, like, it was an experience. I learned a lot, and I'm here now. So I'm curious at where Nikki is in that, where it's just like, I'm sure she doesn't look back at the show, but like moments like this, where it's just like, I would make that decision again because I was in love at that
Mhm.
moment, or would she be like, no, I would never do that, even up to now, like she has a
Mhm.
husband, she has a kid, all that stuff. So
Yeah.
it's curious. I don't know. It honestly just depends on, I guess, the love and the lust at the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Could we factor in the fact that she also was injured? So much of, right? She was injured at the moment still,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So not that that really is a burden on how you would make your decisions, but like, even more so, this is your time to be with your man in terms of, it's a year and all of these exciting things. I just wish that John Cena check could have had them all go to the same city that Natty was at, and they could have sat outside in the
That's a
rain.
big, that's a big ask.
And
That's a
then
big.
Nikki could
So
have
you're trying to so
hobbled.
you're trying to say
Mhm.
have his whole
Whole
family
family as a
fly
vacation. And then Nikki could have, like, almost like a Mrs. Doubtfire little situation. She could have came with her her crutches, like, "Ba, ba, ba, ba. Hey John, hey family," and then she could have, "Ba, ba, ba. Hey Natty." That's
Oh,
funny, right?
it's actually kind of funny too, because when we think of Natty's wedding, there were no bridesmaids.
Mhm.
So like and now that I think about it too, why it was probably even a little bit easier for her to go and see John's family, because she wasn't really in the wedding. It's different when
Mm,
you're like a bridesmaid or you're a
true.
groomsman or you have an active role in the wedding. Like, they didn't like it's different if that's the case. But she wasn't one of those people because it didn't appear like they actually had any of those people. Like they didn't have bridesmaids or groomsmen, so it's a lot easier for you to say, well, because I've turned down quite a few weddings because it's just like it's a whole day affair. Like I'll just get you a gift. Like I love that you're in love, but this is a whole scenario. Although I have agreed to go to somebody's wedding in the Caribbean in October, so we'll see how that rolls. But yeah, it's I think it is different if she were in the wedding.
Yeah.
Technically, she wasn't in the wedding,
but she made sure that phone call went right to the bride. Right. She said,
and then on top of that, we don't really know if that was the real wedding either. So, Natty, when you see this, let us know because
we need a Natty interview or something on your channel, on your platform. Absolutely. No, but Natty
too. She probably went to the real wedding. And I'm sure if we dig through the tweets and stuff, we'll find the answers. So let us know.
I'm just so very much. I'm just so glad that we got to like, because going back as a watch along all these years ago, and these are kind of like first time that I'm like learning of a lot of these cast members, kinda. So it's like I'm excited to have had these 8 episodes and it kind of have this big moment. So like, you really felt good for Natty and she looked so pretty and the big old smile. And, I guess she dispounded that you can actually see the bride and the groom could see each other before the wedding, which we thought was a no. I wouldn't test it. But that's what we learned.
That comes from. I'm sure there's something, there's some reason, some random reason, because all rules and all stuff were created because of something. So there's some random reason somewhere that makes absolutely no sense. It's kind of like the 13th floor, because now a lot of the newer buildings now they have floor 13. But if you look at a lot of the older buildings, like I went somewhere in Toronto, and that was one of the first things I noticed. It actually is my aunt's building in Toronto. Like they didn't have a 13. I was like, well, technically, isn't the next floor 13 anyway? Like,
TK, I don't think we necessarily always want to know, but yes, I hear what you're saying. But all in all, I had a great time watching this episode. Like I said, it felt like a little mid-season finale kind of vibe. So I'm on the journey with you, and I'm glad we get to do this every week. It was funny. I was talking to a friend, and it came up in conversation, like in terms of like what I had on my schedule for the day, or something like that. And it was like, oh, and I do this rewatch of this show called Total Divas, obviously a popular show, but it's a rewatch like years ago. And literally my friend goes, you know what's so funny? I just actually started picking up rewatching a lot of those shows, and that's a show that came up. And furthermore, they were like, well, there's a new show on Hulu. And I was like, you want to know what? We may cover that too. Which is the Bianca one?
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's crazy. I have a coworker, he rewatches The Hills every year. Like that's his thing. Like,
okay, that's a good show. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've never watched it, so kudos.
Never ever. Okay.
I'm not. I like certain reality shows. I don't watch all reality shows. Just because it's a time thing. Like it just.
Yeah.
I just don't have the time to watch.
You do a lot of what you do for work. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's also like you're investing into the characters. So it's like if you watch all those shows, then that's what TV is, and it's emotional investment. So you're putting the investment into these characters, and then like, what are you doing with your life? So,
right, I felt like attached to Natty. I was like, "Where's the dollar dance? Let me go throw $20 and get a dollar dance."
There's that.
You get that excited. It's like you don't know these people really, But
yeah,
it was.
Although
fun.
Natty's she's super dope, super friendly.
Yeah. Well, so far so good. I'm glad we're on track this first season, and we'll be episode 9 next week.
There it is. So where can everybody find you?
randomlyronniejr.com has all of the info. Oh, and Twitch. Do the Twitch, because like you're bigger on Twitch, but I need to get the Twitch going. So for TK's people, go Twitch me. Whatever it's called.
Is it Twitch you? I don't know. Shout to Twitch. Some big things are happening over there too. But yeah, you guys can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. You can follow Women's Wrestling Talk on everything at WW Talk Pod. Definitely go and check out the website, www.talkpod.com. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now.
Hey, I'm Renee Paquette, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.